The worst referee in combat sports history, Steve Mazzagatti. What did he do to earn this title and reputation as a referee? And where is he at today? This is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. And then when I learned about where he is at today and what is going on, I was actually very surprised. But we'll get into that a little bit later, so let's talk about Steve Mazzagatti, the quote-unquote worst referee in mixed martial arts history. Steve Mazzagatti is a Las Vegas resident who, before he became an infamous referee on the Ultimate Fighting Championship, he ran a Muay Thai gym in Las Vegas. He trained many kickboxers and even some early UFC fighters. He worked at the Golden Gloves gym with Roger Mayweather, Freddie Roach, and many other legendary coaches. And for 17 years, he worked for the Las Vegas County Fire Department. On a day-to-day basis, he risked his life to save others, running into burning buildings, responding to life or death shooting situations and car accidents, and even helping people who were brutally beat down in bar fights, which I'm sure was very, very common in the Las Vegas area because, you know, people over there drink alcohol as if it's water. By his peers, he was described as a calm voice in the ear of disaster, and he was even being talked about as an American hero. However, after he hangs up the fire hose and unlaces his bootstraps, and he prepares for his second job as a fight game referee, he is talked about as the complete opposite. He is considered to be a classless villain who is single-handedly destroying the sport of mixed martial arts. American hero by day, classless villain by night. Man, that sounds like a terrible movie. But unfortunately, that was the reality of the life of Steve Mazzagatti. Throughout his career, he ref for close to 500 fights, and of course was known as the worst referee in combat sports due to his history of stopping fights too late, but there are also some fights where he stopped them way too early, which was the case early on into Ronda Rousey's career when she took on a fighter by the name of Sarah D'Alilio. Of course, Ronda Rousey being notorious for the armbar and breaking women's arms on occasion. You can see Ronda is able to get Sarah into that armbar position. However, Mazzagatti tells Ronda Rousey to stop, and you can see the confusion. Ronda looks at him and is like, stop, and she lets go, but she claps it back on because clearly she didn't feel a tap or hear a tap or anything like that. But Mazzagatti just stops the fight anyways, to which they declare Ronda Rousey the winner via tap out. However, Sarah never tapped out. He also had a really bad showing when Anthony Rumble Johnson, rest in peace, took on Kevin Burns, and Kevin Burns kept poking him in the eye, and Steve Mazzagatti just could not see any of it, to the point where Anthony Johnson just couldn't take it anymore. Steve Mazzagatti stopped the fight believing it was going to be a TKO for Kevin Burns. However, under an inspection on the replay, you can clearly see that Rumble Johnson was just being constantly poked in the eye throughout that entire fight, to which Steve Mazzagatti did not call not a single eye poke. So the fight was declared a disqualification victory for Anthony Rumble Johnson. He also had an extremely late stoppage in the fight between Mustafa Al-Turk versus Czech Congo, to which Congo was able to land unanswered strikes for 30 whole seconds before Steve Mazzagatti stepped in, as well as in the main event on that very same card, Rashad Evans took on Forrest Griffin, and Forrest Griffin was not intelligently defending himself. Rashad Evans was able to land a crazy amount of unanswered blows, which prompted Dana White to say this:
Steve Mazzagatti is the worst referee in the history of fighting. I mean, I can't stand this guy. He's so bad.
And believe it or not, Mazzagatti is responsible for that one loss on John Jones's record. That one loss was due to a disqualification in a fight against Matt Hamill, which John Jones was absolutely dominating. Mazzagatti stopped the fight due to illegal downward 12-6 elbows, a very controversial stoppage as many people out there believe they were not illegal elbows, and that John Jones did put a slight angle on them, making them legal. And the controversy goes even further, as normally the fighter would be given a break, making sure they're okay and making sure they want to continue the fight. Whereas Steve Mazzagatti just asked Matt Hamill if he wants to continue, and when Matt Hamill did not answer, he immediately stopped the fight. However, Matt Hamill is actually deaf, so there's no way he would have been able to reply if he can continue or not. But probably the worst and most infamous fight in Mazzagatti's career had to have been the fight between Josh Berkman and John Fitch, which Berkman put Fitch to sleep unknowingly to Mazzagatti. Thankfully, he lets go of the submission, stands above his lifeless body, raises his hand, which prompted Mazzagatti to finally wave off the fight. And of course, you already know this is what prompted Dana White to go on that crazy viral 9-minute rant on Steve Mazzagatti.
And literally, when he goes limp and he's out. Then he rolls him fucking over, lets his head fucking flop to the thing, and then stands up over him. He's literally like this, standing up over him before Mazzagatti even fucking gets in the picture. The Nevada State Athletic Commission is gonna keep this fucking guy around until he seriously hurts somebody. That guy is dangerous.
Disgusted.
If you ever watch Mazzagatti ref a fight, He fucking stands there like this. He's doing his fucking grocery list, thinking about did he TiVo the fucking his favorite show. I don't know what the fuck this guy's doing. Or sometimes he'll go like this and start looking like this when they're not even fucking doing anything. When they're doing shit, he's not in there when he's supposed to be in there.
Unlike
the guy has no
tonight,
fucking idea what he's looking at. I said it a long time ago. The guy shouldn't even be watching MMA on television, let alone fucking reffing it. And you see Fitch's arms go dead. You see him go limp. Mazzagatti standing in the corner. Pick up some bread, fucking milk.
However, surprisingly after this, he still refed for 32 fights and 13 of those being in the UFC. As Steve Mazzagatti said himself, he does not answer to Dana White, but instead, he answers to Keith Kaiser of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. But fittingly, Mazzagatti's last fight as a referee came at the hands of Rousimar Palhares, a very controversial fight where Palhares was actually banned from combat sports due to holding on to a Kimura for way too long after the stoppage. Of course, with Mazzagatti being the referee for this fight, and with his reputation, he of course received some of the backlash as well, which ultimately caused him to never ref a fight again. And in an interview years later, Mazzagatti was asked about his questionable reffing, to which he said for some reason he constantly gets caught up in all the crazy stuff, and he uses the fight between Gray Maynard and Robert Everson, which ended in a double knockout. Mazzagatti just believes for some reason every time a crazy thing happens, he just happens to be the referee, and more so in comparison than other beloved referees such as Herb Dean. Mazzagatti admits that being a referee is actually a very, very lonely job, and he says especially compared to the beloved cut man Jacob Duran, aka Stitch. He says that Stitch gets to hang out with fighters, he gets to talk to the trainers. However, referees can't do that, because what would it look like if a UFC referee was going out with one of the fighters and then the opponent sees that? Or if he were to be going out for a cup of coffee with Dana White? Of course, you already know people will be speculating like crazy. However, after a fairly recent update, Mazzagatti may have found a new calling. There have been a few photos circling around social media showing that Mazzagatti is now a judge, and he was actually seen cage side at UFC 282. So that's actually pretty interesting, because it seems like the Nevada State Athletic Commission is definitely wanting to keep him around the sport. And it'll actually be interesting to see all your reactions to this. Those of you who didn't know this, or even if you were aware of it, I'm interested to see your thoughts on this. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Should Steve Mazzagatti even be allowed to judge fights with his horrible refereeing reputation? Or do you think he should be given a second chance? Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, I thank you all so much for the support, and I'll catch you in the next video.